Yeah, it's fantastic. Well, welcome to folks who joined right on time for Zapier's weekly All Hands. We usually spend the first minute letting folks file in from all over the world. Fun fact about Zapier, it's a very global team and it's an all remote team. We have 800 folks logging in from 42 countries when we do our weekly All Hands, and we've opened it to the public today. We're glad you're here. Wade and I were just talking about U.S. Thanksgiving plans for that. Wade, it sounds like you're staying local. My family will be traveling. Looking forward to the time.
I wish you good travels.
That's the hardest part, isn't it?
I know, especially with kiddos. Yours are probably an age they do all right.
They're pretty good now. They're pretty
Yeah.
good. Um, well, this is the first of its kind. Wade, I didn't know what to expect when we opened this all hands to anyone that wanted to kind of get a preview on our AI plans for next year. But I don't know if you know this, but we ended up with almost 10,000 people RSVPing for this.
Yeah, I saw the count. I was like, wow. I hope all hands is this interesting.
All right. Well, I think we're roughly at critical mass. We have a great deal of folks from all over the world who have already joined. We'll have plenty more as we warm up here. But again, everyone, welcome to Zapier's weekly All Hands. This is a tradition that goes all the way back to Zapier's founding days 14 years ago. We still do it as a way to stay aligned and stay connected as a team. And for the very first time in those 14 years, we have opened it up to the public. I'm going to share my screen in a moment, and we will preview for the Zapier team and for everyone else joining our AI transformation plans for 2026. So, Wade, I think we'll have some fun with this. Let's
I
go.
think so too.
All right. There, and there. Here we go. Okay, first of all, again, welcome. A few logistics. If you are curious whether this is being recorded, if you have a colleague or a friend who wanted to join but couldn't do it live today, the answer is yes. And all 10,000-ish folks who RSVP'd for today's All Hands is going to automatically be sent a recording of everything we're about to talk about. Speaking of what we're going to talk about, it won't just be Wade and I and a few other folks from the team talking. We're going to leave some time at the end for questions. You'll see in the platform we're using to host today's All Hands, a place where we can do Q&A, and you can put in questions anytime during our conversation today. And you can also upvote others' questions. So when we get to Q&A, we'll actually go based on the most popular questions. And last but not least, if you're having any technical issues with our platform today, Google Chrome tends to work best. Okay, first we'll do quick intros. Wade, over to you.
Hey folks, I'm Wade. I'm one of the co-founders CEO here at Zapier.
And I'm Brandon Sammut, Chief People and AI Transformation Officer, joining you from Berkeley, California. Okay, what are we up to today in Zapier's weekly All Hands? It is all about previewing our AI transformation plans for 2026, and we're going to do it this way. First, I'm going to pass it over to Wade in just a minute to actually share a little bit about Zapier's why for AI transformation in the first place. When we're talking with our, peers and customers, like it all starts here, right? AI is a tool; it's not an outcome, and so each organization needs its own why. So that's where we're going to start naturally. We'll also just talk about what it is. How do we define AI transformation? And specifically, what is our vision, our strategy, and our goals for the coming year? We'll also bring a couple other Zapier team members on to talk a little bit about some of our roadmap items and just also some practical stories of impact that we're already seeing, both at the team level. You're going to hear from Lauren Franklin, our VP of support, with a AI transformation use case for the whole support department. And then also a story of AI transformation impact at the individual level. You're going to hear from our teammate, Emily Maybe, Zapier's first AI automation engineer. And then, of course, we're going to do the other thing we said, which is as much Q&A as we can handle before the bottom of the hour. Over to you, Wade.
Awesome. Well, welcome, team. I'm glad to see you here at our company hangout where we're talking AI transformation, and appreciate you all trying something new. So if you haven't noticed, we're on a different platform. We've got about 1,000 people from the public watching as well, too. I think it's actually much more than that. I'm probably downplaying the number. Yeah, looking at the chat. Yep, we're into the thousands. So there's quite a few folks here. we thought this would be a good experiment. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback from sharing a bunch of our lessons learned around how we're figuring out AI at Zapier. So we figured we'd try our hand at open sourcing our playbook or building in public or whatever the like trendy term is for sharing some of the how the sausage gets made. So that's what we're doing here today. First up, though, it's worth understanding a little bit. It's worth me like sort of setting the stage for our public listeners. For most of you here at Zapier, you've heard a lot of this stuff before. But for those of you who are new, I want to share a little bit about like how we got to where we're at today, and a little bit about where we're at, so you can understand a little bit about where we're going. This is probably useful because you might not be as advanced as Zapier, or you might be further ahead than us. And so it's probably useful for you to understand a little bit about some of that stage setting. Why are we doing this? Well, a big one, we have a value of default to transparency. So we're trying to do this. And we also think open sourcing this playbook helps everybody learn. So hopefully you all can learn a little bit of from us, but hopefully we get feedback from those of you who are ahead of us in some aspects and are doing things that are interesting, novel. We expect by sharing this, we'll get feedback. We'll say like, hey, hopefully politely, but this is the internet, so I assume we'll get some haters as well too. Like, you all are dumb, you should be doing this better. But all feedback is welcome, even the less kind version. In terms of why we're doing this. Well, I think you all probably remember, those of you who were at Zapier at the time, back in 2023 when GPT-4 came out. This was kind of our like very first wake up call. We'd been dabbling with AI. There was a bunch of organic adoption, people playing with ChatGPT, but it was all sort of very bottoms up, very organic, very sort of suggestive in nature. I'd say our AI adoption at the time was, single digit percentage of folks playing around with this stuff. GPT-4 came out. This was our wake-up call. This was a moment where we noticed a couple things. One, GPT-4 is just an excellent model. Two, it was a lot better than 3.5. And three, it was released only 6 months after 3.5. And so we just started to play that math out and say, hey, we've got 2 dots. If the third one shows up and there's a trend line here, these models are getting really good really fast. And the result was we needed to rethink a lot of stuff. We needed to rethink our roadmap so that our customers could take advantage of this technology. We needed to rethink our entire operations so that we were taking advantage of the technology. And it was the type of thing that I recognized was not going to happen simply organically. So we called the code red and say, hey, everybody wake up. We need to be paying attention to this stuff. From there, we did a handful of things. We ran a hackathon. This was probably the most important thing. And in talking to hundreds of different customers, at this point in time, it is probably the most valuable thing you can do to jumpstart adoption inside your company. You get people's hands on keyboards, you get them building with the technology, you using an LLM, using tools like Zapier, using tools like Cursor or Claude Code or what have you, to just get people familiar with what is possible. As part of the hackathons, you can do show and tell. Show and tell is really valuable because people can start to learn from each other. And they learn from each other in the context of your own company, which is really valuable. Because what you see on Twitter, what you see on LinkedIn, it's hard to understand what of that is just an impressive demo and what is actually practical change that is happening inside of companies. And so that show and tell inside your company context really helps you do well. From there, we rinse, wash, and repeated those hackathons every few months, probably every 4 to 6 months. We do show and tell as part of our all hands on the regular. We do show and tell inside of Slack. And we also added a few constraints to the business. So myself, our CFO, Ryan, we review every headcount request, we review every new software spend. And this is a really important constraining function that encourages people to adopt AI in places that they may not naturally be leaning into. Transformation is uncomfortable. And so you do have to inject some uncomfortable mechanisms to encourage people to go outside of their normal operating practices to try something different. And yes, this might mean things are a little bit more disruptive in the short term, but over the long haul, it really accelerates the work you can do. And so these practices have enabled us to get to nearly 100% of our folks are adopting AI on the regular. I think it's raised the floor in terms of what's possible in Zapier. But this gets to where we're at today. And this is where I'm going to hand it over to you, Brandon, to talk a little bit about what our 2026 playbook is. I feel like we're still just in the early innings. We certainly haven't transformed everything that is possible inside of Zapier. In fact, I would say we haven't transformed most things. And so, 2026 is our next chance to raise the ceiling. Over to you.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, Wade. What's the opportunity? I mean, this is interesting. This we have a framework now for thinking about the opportunity with AI, as we heard it from Wade. And on like our people team, which I have the privilege of leading, folks are hopefully tired of hearing it because I've said it so many times that it's not just about efficiency, y'all. Like with other tech transformations, it may have been enough to save a bunch of time and money, and there's certainly an opportunity to do that with AI. But wow, is the opportunity bigger here? So now at Zapier, when we're circling opportunities to rethink how we work with AI, this is the framework that we use, right? Yes, like, can we make things more efficient? Let's figure that out. But while we're at it, why don't we also improve the quality of the work we're doing? And then while we're doing those first two things, we're often, redesigning the work itself. So while we're doing that, let's make the experience of doing that work at Zapier unusually fulfilling, unusually energizing for the humans doing the work too. In that three-part framework, efficiency, quality, employee experience, that kind of stood as it for the bulk of this year until we added the bar at the bottom. Call it radical customer value. You probably need to find like a more conversational way of talking about that. But what it's really meant to get at is this notion that we're starting to see, in addition to transforming, some of the work that we do every day, that sometimes there's an opportunity to do an entirely different type of work. There's a new opportunity, a new type of customer we can serve, or a new problem we can solve for existing customers through the thoughtful use of AI. And so we're trying to pay more attention to that fourth opportunity as well. But again, if you hear nothing else on this efficiency, quality, employee experience with AI, we really think you can have it all three ways. And we're insisting that our big AI kind of projects are scoped for impact in all three of these areas. Um, and if that sounds like it's just Brandon and Wade's opinion, fear not. There's some research that's showing that these three types of impact with AI are actually starting to pan out. This is a part of a study from the management consulting firm McKinsey. This is fresh. This is just 30, 45 days old, and they surveyed organizations on where they're seeing impact from the use of AI over the last year. And those three orange arrows, well, look at that. The third one, cost, that's an efficiency metric. The one immediately two above that, customer satisfaction, that's a quality metric. And the one above that, employee satisfaction, well, that gets to the employee experience piece that we talked about earlier. Those blue bars, those are the percentage of companies they surveyed that said that they're seeing measurable improvements in those areas. That's remarkable. I didn't expect it to be quite that big yet. So it really does speak to the opportunity. So that's a little bit about the why for Zapier's AI transformation and what we think we are playing for, the impact that we want to have. Let's talk a little bit about the what. Here's Zapier's simple definition for AI transformation. What is it? It's the organizational shift that reinvents how work gets done to deliver measurable business impact, including, like we talked about a minute ago, entirely new business models or opportunities. And I think maybe the most important part of this whole definition is measurable business impact. We always like to say that AI is a technology, and like every technology, it is a means to something. It's rarely the something in and of itself. And in this sense, no matter where our organizations, all of us joining globally today, may be on our AI journey, none of our organizations is starting from scratch because our organizations have missions. We have strategies and goals. We have end users and customers that we wake up to serve every day. And AI transformation is really all about how we can do that meaningfully and measurably better through a new technology. Wade talked earlier about this notion of adoption versus transformation, and this is the framework that we use for that. So much of the work Zapier has done over the last 2.5 years is really around AI adoption. Wade's right to say that what we're playing for next year and beyond in particular is genuine transformation. We talk about AI adoption as raising the floor. It's building AI fluency within the team. It's making sure we have a strong culture of experimentation. It's making sure that we're sharing quickly what we're learning and trying. It's all incredibly important. And you can see some pretty practical, measurable productivity gains and employee experience gains from AI adoption. And we're seeing that too. It's not the whole opportunity though. And that's what raising the ceiling is all about with AI transformation. That's about rethinking, not just like tooling or, dabbling here and there. That's about almost like more of a clean slate approach to how we sell, how we recruit, how we do talent development, how we do customer support, how we build and maintain our products. That's the focus for Zapier 2026 and ahead. And the types of improvements that we would expect over time are less in the like the 10% improvement range and more in the 10x range. Wade's right. We don't have examples of 10x improvements today. We do have an interesting example on the way there that you'll hear from our customer support leader later, but so much more to learn and build. To organize a lot of the work we're doing over the next year, we use this AI transformation framework. And on the right hand side, that's the most important part of this whole thing, right? Everything we're doing is about impact. How do we do the things that we wake up to do every day at Zapier, serving customers, helping them be successful on their AI automation journeys? How do we do that massively better than we have in the past? There are four ingredients that we think get us there: leadership, talent and culture, tools, and governance. The way we staff for AI transformation, the scorecarding that will show, I'll actually do a live demo of our AI transformation scorecard in a few minutes. It's all organized around this single AI transformation framework, which we'll make available to folks after today's all hands. There's one important thing I want to call out here. You'll notice that two of these ingredients, leadership and talent and culture, are all about the humans. And then you'll notice that the other two ingredients, tools and governance, are about, vendors and technology and data models and governance and policy. They're all really important. We give the people side of this equation equal footing with the data, the tech, the vendors, the models, and the policy. They're all important. What we notice, and this isn't just with AI, but like other types of business transformation, is that when you're trying to transform how work gets done, organizations usually start with tools and governance because they're really tangible, easy to measure, typically. The people side of the equation can feel a little squishier and doesn't always get the attention that it deserves. But we deeply, like if I have any conviction about anything on this slide, it's that the leadership, talent, and culture pieces are just as important as those third and fourth ingredients. And so equal investment, equal focus as part of our theory of the case for AI transformation. Some specific examples of places where we've made some progress in 2025 across the pillars look a little bit like this. So, in the leadership angle, I mean, Wade, asked me to step up into a bigger role, sponsoring our AI transformation. So that's a exec level investment in what we're talking about today. But it didn't stop there. We have exec sponsors over all of the important AI work going on in the company as well. In the talent and culture area, really big deal this year. We started insisting on some degree of AI fluency for 100% of the hires that we make into Zapier. We don't ask folks to figure all of that out on their own. So we provide a lot of context and transparency about what that looks like for folks that apply to a job at Zapier. But we are unapologetic about insisting on some degree of AI fluency for every job in the company. And we've open sourced that AI fluency framework as well. In the tool side, like Wade was saying earlier, we have 97% of folks using AI in their core work now, and a lot of thanks to our IT teams, finance teams, and so on, legal teams who've really created, in the governance area included, like a bit of a fast lane, a high rigor but quick way to evaluate new tools, so we can get our teams' hands on those tools and start experimenting and learning really quickly. And then, as you'll hear from Lauren, our head of support, later in the impact story, kind of spotlight really amazing story of impact. And that story of impact is really the product of all four of these ingredients: leadership, talent, culture, tools, and governance. Okay, let's get even more specific. Plans for 2026, vision, goals, and how we're going to staff for this. First, a couple of insights from 2025 that are informing the vision and strategy for 2026. First, it's not all roses, team. You know this. We do this work every day. There are some really interesting challenges that I think most organizations can relate with that we are really keen to get on top of in 2026. The first one is, integrating a lot of what we're talking about today into just the core mechanics of how the company operates. Wade talked about this notion of hackathons, for example. Well, Zapier's been doing hack weeks since the company started 14 years ago. AI is now like a kind of a spotlight methodology or thing that we focus on in those hack weeks. Um, but there are other things around budgeting, how we do company planning, or what have you, where only towards the end of this year are we starting to more fully integrate our AI transformation work into those practices so that we're accounting for that type of thing up front rather than after the fact. Second thing we work on, probably something a lot of folks can empathize with, is that there's certain types of talent or expertise which can be really helpful for building with AI and what have you. We've been able to develop some of that internally. We like to be able to attract it from outside the organization too. Those folks are in hot demand right now. So I'd say bring it on. We've got a great talent team here at Zapier that helps us win this type of talent, but it is not easy. And last but not least, I don't know if you've noticed, but there are a lot of new tools on the market today, and it's absolutely overwhelming. So making sense of that, top priority for the team here at Zapier. Some bright spots, some things that are working well that we're gonna kind of wind at our backs going to next year. You heard from Wade, like pretty darn good culture of experimentation at Zapier these days. We don't want to take that for granted, but it's really helping. We have employee resource groups at Zapier, and they've aligned their mission and all their programming around talent development for AI fluency. So some of the more interesting hackathons, AI builder sessions, and so on that Zapier's done in 2025, sponsored and led by our employee resource groups. And then, as you're going to hear from Emily maybe a little bit later, there's some new career opportunities emerging as a result of what we're doing with AI. And we'll get specific on that in a little bit. Opportunities on the far right-hand side, Wade said it best. It's the transition from adoption, raising the floor, to transformation. It's about raising the ceiling. Having really strong data foundations is just so key for this, right? That's the big differentiator, is like what you're pointing, AI and automation at really influences what you can do with it and how much you can trust what you're getting out of it. So huge focus for our data team this coming year. And then also, the good news is we've been 2.5 years in now on the journey, and we're starting to see some what we call golden paths, some best practices for building, deploying, and then managing AI workflows. And we want to kind of take those wall to wall throughout Zapier to make it both faster for folks to build their next use case or solution with AI, but also to make sure that the way we're doing that is incredibly rigorous. So let's talk about the vision. I'm not going to read everything on this slide because we'll publish it internally later, and everyone joining externally, you're going to get a copy of this in any case. But the main point I want to make, it's really all about the pillars of this AI transformation vision. It starts with customers. It starts with customers, and it starts with customers for two reasons. One is specific to Zapier, and one is relevant for every organization joining today. The one that's specific to customers is that when customers use Zapier, which is an AI orchestration platform, a lot of what they're looking for help with is their AI transformation, both from a product perspective, but also looking to Zapier for some guidance on the how around all of that. So if we want to continue to be that trusted guide for customers, well, then we should be one of the best models or exemplars of AI transformation inside our own company. So it all starts with customers. Then, of course, for the company itself, right? We need to make this bridge from, mostly AI adoption to genuine transformation. Just case study worthy examples of what this looks like. But in all of the areas that we talked about earlier, efficiency, quality, and employee experience. And speaking of the employees, the third pillar, it's the team. This is the team doing all the work. The people still matter. It's at the center of the whole thing. So making sure that we're investing in AI fluency for the talent here at Zapier, and making sure that we're delivering on the part of the vision that's about making the work more impactful for sure, more productive, but also just more joyful, more interesting, and more meaningful for the humans. Staying on the humans, we talked about that AI fluency framework earlier. Here is a synopsis of it. This isn't the whole thing by any means, but this is the one that's easier to share on a single slide. We use this to assess 100% of candidates for jobs at Zapier. We also use it as a form of self-assessment for our current team. For example, for myself, 2025 for me was the year where I started bridging from kind of capable to genuinely adoptive. Like the way I work today, the quality of the work that I do, and again, using that framework, the experience of doing my job today is better. It is a better job than it was a year ago. So for me, that's been a little bit of my journey on this AI fluency framework over the course of this year. Here's a big thing for us next year. So yes, like teams across Zapier are going to continue improving the way we do work with AI next year, removing toil from the work, increasing the quality of the work we do with customers. Absolutely. But in the spirit of genuine AI transformation, we've also signed the whole company up for two, what we're calling AI transformation bets. These are the biggest swings we are making to reimagine or re-engineer work as it's done at the company. And these are all based on like two places where, like, Wade, sometimes you talk about this notion of, hey, what can we be doing? And it's not always with AI, but in this case it is. Like, what can we be doing that would change the color of the sky? And that's always really stood out to me. Like, what could we be doing here that would change the game? And we had a leadership offsite in Mexico City a few weeks ago. Did a ton of brainstorming across the team, and we're making two very large bets with AI next year. The first one we're calling the Zapier digital twin. We're going to pilot this within the support team. You're going to hear from Lauren, our head of support, in a few minutes. This is all around basically tuning a fleet of agents and related workflows tuned on company and role specific data that really works as a right hand to every human in the organization, meaningfully increasing efficiency, quality, and employee experience for everyone involved. Again, that's going to get prototyped in support, and the exec sponsor for that, no surprise, is Lauren Franklin, our head of support. The second bet, we're calling AI powered value engineering. What does that mean? That's a combination of use of AI, but also talent development to make sure that every person in this company can have a conversation with a customer and in a very quick and meaningful way, translate that conversation into a multitude of very, very concrete ways that that customer can use Zapier to help their business absolutely thrive. That's really important for a company like Zapier. It's a horizontal product. You can use it to solve so many problems in a business. But if you're a customer facing member of our team today, you got to hold a lot in your head to do that really quickly and get customers that next opportunity, with speed. AI can help. We're starting to see some ways that can happen. We want to raise our ambitions for what that could look like, and then we want to take it wall to wall across Zapier. The exec sponsor for that AI transformation bet is Naveed, our head of sales and success. And then for customers, as part of this vision, it all comes back to customers at the end of the day. We're going to continue hosting events like this. We've done 36 in the back half of this calendar year alone, from live AI agents builder sessions to exec roundtables. We have a series specifically for AI transformation leaders that we call AI Leaders Lab, and the list goes on and on. Just huge props again to all of our folks in marketing, the whole go-to-market team. We've been experimenting. The feedback's been amazing. So we'll put a link up that has a list of the upcoming ways to get in the mix with that. And now we're going to do the scorecard. So we talked about the scorecard earlier. This is work in progress, by the way, but at the end of the day, it's like, well, what are we going to measure? How are we going to know if we're making progress? Let's do a quick demo of that. Okay. All right. So these brightly colored squares at the top of the screen, these should look familiar because these are the pillars of that AI transformation framework that we talked about earlier. So we're pulling that framework through in how we're organizing our success factors. This is work in progress, by the way, and all the data here is mock data. It's synthetic. These are not actual scores yet. We'll be starting to score all of this in January of this coming year. But again, you see the pillars: leadership, talent and culture, tools and governance, all in service of measurable, meaningful impact through the use of AI. Some examples here. In the leadership area, we'll be tracking the progress and ultimately the outcomes of those two bets that we talked about earlier, the Zapier digital twin and AI-powered value engineering. We're also going to be looking at resourcing. So we have a very specific staffing model we're going to preview in a few minutes. We want to make sure that we're kind of effectively putting our talent and our cash where our mouth is on making progress on our AI roadmap. In the talent and culture area, just as one more example, we have a couple of indices that we're going to be tracking that really are some of the ingredients that make for great culture of experimentation, rapid prototyping, and just learning really quickly. I think Wait, I don't know what you think about this, but one of the things I worry about with AI sometimes is the opportunity is really big and we can get really excited about it, but we need folks to maintain a ton of intellectual honesty about the stuff that's like really good and the stuff that's just not there yet. I don't know if that resonates.
Yeah, I think Brian, my co-founder, our CTO, he has this line: "You can delegate the work, but you can't delegate the accountability." And it's pretty exciting to see what you can like vibe build with AI these days. But you still got to like dig in and inspect the work and make sure it's quality, make sure it meets the standards, all that sort of stuff. You can't get rid of that part.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, I love that from Brian. Um, and so there it is, a preview of the scorecard again for our Zapier team. You'll see more on this right before the winter holidays, and then we'll include this in our company monthly business review reporting starting in Q1 of this year. All right, we talked a little bit about staffing up for everything that we've talked about so far. Here is Zapier's staffing model for AI transformation. It is a hub and spoke model. In the middle, you have an AI Transformation Center of Excellence. We have a directly responsible individual. We call them DRIs for each of those 5 pillars. So again, you see that same framework showing up in the staffing model. We also have what we call the spokes. So these are teams embedded within each core part of the organization. So on the far right, you see just an example of our go-to-market organization. And we have 4 muscles. We're not calling them jobs because in some cases, one person could fulfill multiple of these capabilities. Um, these are kind of the 4 core muscles or motions that we think every part of the organization needs to have embedded within itself to make just really thoughtful, concrete, and measurable progress with AI. And again, when we talk about progress with AI, what we really mean is doing the things that we already care about more efficiently, with higher quality, and in ways that make the experience better for the people doing the work. The DRIs for the Center of Excellence across the pillars, you will see here. We'll have a little bit more detail on that for our internal team towards the very back week or two of this calendar year. But the thing that's most important is that we have signed very specific leaders up to be part of this COA. So this is part of that resourcing commit. It's not real until signatures are next to it, as we like to say. And then zooming in on the spokes a little bit, here's one for the people team. So we talked about these 4 kind of muscles that we want to make sure every part of the organization has. Uh, they are the AI transformation manager, the AI fluency champion, the AI automation engineer, and the AI innovation lead. And the 4 folks on this screen are the folks who are going to be filling those capacities for the people team at Zapier in 2026. So AI transformation manager, you can think of as the captain. That's Maggie Roque here at Zapier. We have Emily Navy, who we're going to hear from in a little bit, playing roles of both AI fluency champion. That's about the work of, kind of raising the fluency bar within the people team, as well as AI automation engineer, which interestingly is also Emily's actual job title these days at Zapier. This is a builder role. Emily's coming alongside several of our teams already, including our talent team and our people ops team, to help us actually build our most ambitious AI and automation use cases within the people team. And then the AI innovation lead is all about the person who's looking like right at the edge of the horizon, all the leading research, the most unhinged ideas, you name it, and really making sure that we continue to push out and raise up our sense of what's possible. All right, a little bit more specific on roadmap here. You see that framework? Well, it's coming back. And here we have some examples of what we're doing in 2026 to make all of this real. We talked earlier from a leadership perspective, weaving everything we've talked about into how the company actually operates. And so one specific example of that, all that scorecard reporting that we looked at earlier, that gets woven into our company MBRs, which we've had for years. Talent and culture, we're going to do what we talked about a moment ago, make sure that every part of the organization has a dedicated AI fluency champion, growing fluency with their peers. From a tooling perspective, we have a brilliant data team, centralized data organization at Zapier. They have a very ambitious charter around how we're going to use data to be amazing with AI. From a governance point of view, we're going to start standardizing how we do AI deployments. That's actually going to, it's so interesting. You think about like governance, you're like, that slows things down, right? I don't know, maybe sometimes it does, but sometimes standardization speeds things up. And that's our working model for governance at Zapier, right? By being clear and being standardized about the best ways to do things like AI deployments, we think that not only we improve like quality, safety, rigor, and trust, but on balance, I bet we'll do it a little bit faster too. And last but not least, we talked about those 2 AI transformation bets for the whole company next year, the Zapier digital twin and AI-powered value engineering. Well, we're going to go deliver those 2. I bet we're going to learn a lot along the way. And I doubt it will be a straight line from here to there, but we're going to figure it out. Okay, I think we're ready to hear from a couple of our teammates. First up, Lauren Franklin, really amazing case study of AI transformation in action with our customer support team. Lauren, welcome.
Hey everyone, Lauren here from support. I'm going to be talking a little bit today about support's AI transformation. So over the last couple of years, we've really been focusing our efforts so that AI is at the forefront of how we operate as a team. And this has really helped us create some awesome tools for our support team and really improve efficiency as well. But alongside that, kind of as Brandon has mentioned, we've also been really focused on how we can support our teams to adopt new tools and learn new things with the intent that our team's skills and morale grows rather than our headcount growing. And so looking back a couple of years when GPT-4 launched, Wade mentioned that there back in 2023, obviously, I think a lot of people would agree with this statement that support teams were pretty nervous, worried that AI would kind of replace their jobs first. So it was really clear that we just needed to get ahead of that and make sure that we were using AI instead of being fearful of it. And so I say support leaders here. I was going to say that's what I think every support leader needs to do. They need to future-proof their team through experimentation. And in 2023, we started to do two big things. First of all, we started building and buying AI tools. And then second, we made sure the whole team knew we needed their help. And we asked them to test, to give feedback, push performance, their own performance, so we could really learn where AI fit best. And we also raised our performance metrics as well, but we committed to reviewing them twice a year. So there's a practice that we still do today. There's a lot of change happening in the industry. We do this to stay fair and thoughtful as we think about metrics. So this slide here that you'll see, Zen GPT. So that same year, 2023, we launched Support Sidekicks. So that was originally called Zen GPT. This was actually created from a hackathon, and it was our first internal AI tool. It was built on ChatGPT, and it helped our Q teams do things like summarize tickets, draft replies, troubleshoot, write TLDRs, things like that, and even customize their writing styles with different prompts, all within our support extension, which we still use our support extension to this day. And so that was our first real step into AI enablement, and it worked. The Q teams helped more customers in the same amount of time, meaning that we could scale more efficiently without backfilling every role that was lost to attrition. But there is a ceiling with AI. It's not a set it and forget it situation. It does need to have constant investment. You need to have clear ownership. You need to have ongoing iteration of tools. And even with Sidekick's success, we were still juggling too many priorities. There's like so many things that you could do, problems that you could solve. And our technical support operations team felt very stretched and unsure where to focus on what to do next. And so this slide here that you can see, this Figma file, this is essentially the problem that we decided to tackle, is the problem of tool sprawl. And this is a Figma screenshot that our technical support operations team put together about a year ago. And you can see, I know it's very small, we'll send these slides out, but everything that's in blue is essentially a tool that the support team use. And when they're doing a typical troubleshooting ticket, it's likely they'll use maybe about 5 different sources. So you can imagine that's a ton of context switching. There's a lot of information to pass. And if we want people to work faster and have that really great quality, we needed to just make things simpler. And so that's what led us to build our new ticket Copilot tool, which is essentially an internal chatbot interface that pulls information from all of these sources that you can see, rather than sending our teams off looking for all of this information. They've got it all in one place. They can interface with the data, and that really helps folks stay focused instead of jumping between tools and having to go to a bunch of different sources. So we're going to play a demo here of Copilot. This is from Chase, who manages our support engineering team, who built Copilot. So let's take a look.
Hey everybody, I'm Chase from our technical support operations team here at Zapier. Today I'm going to give you a quick look at Ticket Copilot, our internal AI assistant that helps Zapier's support team troubleshoot customer issues faster and more accurately. Ticket Copilot connects directly to our support systems, and it searches across multiple sources. So things like our help documentation, internal knowledge bases, bug trackers, and even historical ticket solutions. It's designed to get agents to the exact information they need, all within a conversational interface that you see here. So in this example, my team has created a test ticket here where a user is having trouble with the strike trigger. I'll ask Ticket Copilot to help me troubleshoot. So I can come in here and say, help me troubleshoot. Take a look at the customer's Zap and then search Port Brain and Rover for possible answers. All right, so I'm gonna send that through, and then you'll get to see here, you'll see that the Ticket Copilot is thinking and reasoning, and then it's gonna go step by step through the process. So first, it's fetching the ticket details here on the left. Then after that, it's now fetching the Zap details, which we had requested above. And then now it's gonna start searching both Support Brain and Rover, which are both internal tools that we use here for troubleshooting. All right, perfect. So now you're going to see the output here. It's identified a root cause, and it looks like it says here that the customer is using the wrong strike trigger for their use case. It walks step by step through the problem, the solution, and will even provide a little bit more details, recommended actions, and then sources so you can validate if you need to. And what's even cooler is that from here, I can then even ask Ticket Copilot to generate a reply for me to send to this customer. So I'll say, generate a reply for this ticket. So for this, it's going to use the context from the investigation that it's done so far, and it's going to write a clear, empathetic explanation, including the steps to fix the issue so the agent can review and then send this right away. So again, let's see here the output we've got. So you can see it greets them, and then you can see it explicitly calls out the issue and how to solve it, and then walks them step by step for how to do it. And that's it. So the result that you get here is faster troubleshooting, higher consistency, and more time for our agents to focus on the human side of support. And that's Ticket Copilot. Thanks, everybody.
Cool. So in case you're wondering, the team love it. Had some feedback today that this is a critical tool, which is really, really exciting. Next slide, please. I want to talk a little bit about enablement of these tools, though. So this is kind of how we've approached AI enablement in general. So when it comes to enabling your teams through AI transformation, how you approach it matters just as much as what you build or what you buy. I'm a big believer in the right approach can make or break adoption of these tools. So here's what's worked for us. So first of all, you should focus your efforts, pick one or two really clear problem spaces. And for us, that was around email support productivity, because there's just a lot of space for areas of improvement there. Another great example, though, which I'll save for another time, is reducing manager admin time, so leaders can really focus on coaching and improving the customer experience. The next is prioritize by urgency. So decide which problem is more pressing. And a good test of that is, would you need to hire if you didn't solve that? And then you should do it. The next one is make it mandatory. So whatever you build or buy, it isn't optional. It becomes part of how your team operates. And that's the case with Copilot once it comes out of our testing period. And this is because these types of tools that are truly transformational are going to be different from the kind of AI use for personal productivity. To make sure that you do that well, though, you need to bring the team along. So anytime that we launch something new or we change a process that's going to affect the Q teams, we create a working group of testers, and they validate what we build and they help us improve it. The next is invest in enablement. This is the most important one, I would say. You need a plan, you need time, you need to give people structure to make sure they can be successful. My biggest pet peeve with some of the AI mandates that we see is that it's too loose. You can't just expect people to just play around with a tool and for there to be AI transformation. That won't work. People need structure, they need accountability. And then lastly, this is something that worked for us. We can share this as well. We launched an AI fluency program. So it's 25 hours of self-paced learning content with builder challenges at the end. And everybody in support is required to complete it. We ran it in 2 waves. So the email team did it back in August, and our chat team are doing it now during the quieter Thanksgiving period. So essentially, the most important thing to know about this is that leaders really need to consider the human side of AI adoption. It's not just about the tools. It's really about clarity, visibility, connection, making sure that people have structure and time and accountability to succeed. And the results have been huge for us, I'm happy to say. So our Q teams are working faster with fewer people, and our teams are happier as well. So some engagement score data for you here. Our scores have risen from the mid-50s in early 2024 to the high 80s today. And so I'm very proud of that. We've managed to improve sentiment and engagement during this kind of AI transformation. And that's because we prioritize really effectively, stayed close to the work, and create time and structure for learning. So my kind of closing on this would be get really clear on your problem, build or buy something that solves it, but make sure it actually works by bringing your people in and support them through the change with the time and the structure. That's how you kind of lead through AI transformation. And it's really not about replacing your people, but it's about enabling them to do more. So I could talk about this all day, but I'm going to leave it there and I'll pass it over to Emily.
Everybody, I'm Emily Maybe, and I am here today to take a few minutes to tell you about my individual transformation into an AI-first operator who frees up time from the tedious to repurpose into things like strategy and shooting for the moon and spending time with customers. I am Zapier's senior AI automation engineer for HR, but the first thing I want to start with today is a picture. This is a picture of me. Of course, it's a flawless photo, but it's not just a random picture of me being in love with candy floss. This is me on the exact day that my entire career changed. This is the day as someone who was working in L&D as a manager enablement learning designer that Central debuted on Zapier's blog. This is the exact day that our chief people officer at the time, Brandon, from this call, showed me a video of Central, now called AI agents at Zapier, being used for a manager enablement use case. And in this moment where I saw that video, I said thank you to Brandon, of course. But then I ran upstairs, I grabbed my phone in my hotel room because we were at an offsite in Denver, and I called my partner and I said, I just saw the future of AI, and I am going to put everything I can on hold to be able to learn it. And that all began by automating really simple HR tasks with AI agents, things like recreating manager coaching tools and building training checklist systems and structuring more intelligent reminders. But each experiment taught me new ways to use Zapier's tools and new ways to connect the Legos across Zapier tables and interfaces and chatbots and agents and Zaps until I was able to delegate all of the repetitive work to AI. And over time, those small wins were able to be built into a personal AI ecosystem. And something that I would build on a typical Friday afternoon would save me 30 minutes the next week. Now, it is time for the big reveal. I am going to show you the most impactful AI agent I have. This is one that dozens of people have copied and used, one that I've demonstrated and co-built with literally hundreds, if not maybe thousands of people at this point. So here we go. Here it is. And I'm guessing that if you're looking at it, you're probably thinking, wow, that is not even a little bit impressive. And you're totally right. But this is just how it looked when I started. You see, this agent has evolved over time. It's been adapted to match my ways of working and been improved to work more and more like a true AI coworker. So what began as something super simple, right? When I react in Slack with to do, save this task. As an agent, it eventually became something more and something more and even more intelligent, despite never writing a single line of code. And the result of this particular agent is 100% accountability. So I want you to imagine this. Now, if I'm asked to do something, there is no chance of it slipping through the cracks. It just gets done. There's no note-taking. There's no manual coordinating of tasks that come flying at me all day. It not only saves my time, it also saves my reputation as someone who is known for follow-through. Now we're actually going to have the benefit here of showing the agent live on the screen. I believe Brandon has a link to that.
Sure do. Here it comes.
And while it's playing, it's only going to show you about 40 seconds of footage. The reason that this agent has resonated with so many people and why so many people end up building it is because every single one of us feels that pain point of 1,000 random requests and wanting to stay on top of all of them. And that's something I really want to emphasize here. The person who's entrenched in the pain point is the person who is best equipped to AI automate it. And that is why in 2026, I'm mentoring other folks, including Zapier customers, to build our own AI solutions. And in 2026, my goal is to turn every member of Zapier's people team into an AI builder, and a whole heck of a lot of our customers too, because AI fluency isn't about knowing tricky technology. It's about knowing your own work well enough to redesign it. And if you want a head start on that, you can join me for a Building Better AI Agents for Everyday Work workshop. But for now, I'm going to toss it back to our hosts.
All right. Emily, thank you so much. It's been such a delight, like being a part of this journey with you, and so many stories of this across Zapier these days. It's just been remarkable. Okay, I think we're ready to do some Q&A, if I'm not mistaken. So let's get right into it. Although before I do, let me do one other thing. I'm going to do our what's next now, so we can actually end on Q&A. Couple things for the Zapier team. What comes next? In mid-December, we'll publish a Zapier HQ post talking more about our 2 bets for 2026 and our scorecarding. We will start scorecarding everything we talked about today in January as part of our monthly MBRs. And then last but not least, this particular Slack channel, Zapier AI Transformation, is a great place to share questions about anything that we talked about today, just as well as ideas. And then we should continue using the Slack channels we've had for years for, AI help desk for any conceivable question, use cases, demos. Like we already have things for that, but this new channel, AI Transformation, is a great one for just like ideas around like the overall effort. A couple other things for folks joining us from the public today. I mentioned AI Leaders Lab earlier. This is a community of AI transformation leaders, companies of all shapes and sizes. We'll put a link in here today if you are accountable for AI transformation in your organization or know the person that is that might value this. Join some of the organizations featured on this slide and many more. We do some fascinating, very practical like dialogue and workshopping together. It's been a treat as a fellow AI transformation leader. And actually, really neat creative thing here. If you want to put the AI transformation framework we talked about today to work, or actually do a quick diagnostic on where your organization is, we have actually a really fun, lightweight way to do that in the form of this Zapier chatbot. And we'll put a link to that in the chat as well. All right, with that being the case, we are ready to end on Q&A, and I'm going to turn it over to the team. We'll stop sharing. We're going to pull everybody up, and we'll take as many questions as we can.
Hey, everybody. Lauren, Emily, hop on. We've got questions for everybody here. We've got 7 minutes. Let's see if we can do 7 questions as we go here. I think a really simple one to start on, since we just saw Emily's demo. There was a question about your agent that I think is an easy one to answer, Emily. Does your agent only work with Slack, or could it work with, say, Microsoft Teams?
I love this question. Okay, so I would encourage you, I know in this session, we're going to have people across 12 dozen tech stacks. So what I'm going to encourage you to do, rather than answer just for Teams, go to our app integrations library and look at the email or messaging provider you use. So if you use Teams, look there and see what triggers are available. The only limitation is your imagination and the triggers that you can see there. So for instance, if you're like, I actually use my email, I don't use Slack, and your email provider has a trigger, I know mine does, you can build this agent for a totally different set of tools. So start with the integrations library, and then you won't have to wonder about any specific tools.
Love it. Here's a question from Spencer for you, Lauren. My team is in the early stages of identifying AI use cases and adopting AI in a newsroom environment, but there is some resistance to change. How do you suggest getting folks on board with this new wave of technology?
I think the biggest thing is to talk about it. Just get into the details a little bit. I kind of identify the reason for that resistance, but do it without judgment. This is just a conversation. Be curious about it. Make sure that you explain the why to folks, why you want to do this, that, leveraging AI will help to future-proof teams. It's a positive thing for us to adopt, for us to better enable ourselves. And explain that we're going to do it anyway. If you have conviction that it's the right thing to do, it's okay to say, I hear where you're at this point in time. We're going to do this thing anyway, and we'd love to have you involved. Those folks who maybe are a bit more resistant, maybe skeptical, they can be really good at helping to pressure test what you're building. So bring them into the conversation. Couple of things that I would make sure that you do is to give people the time and structure. I know I said that about 6 times on the presentation, but I can't stress that enough. It's really important. And then be in the details with your team. Just meet with them regularly. I do 3 office hours a month. We talk about AI a lot, and it's just great conversations to get everybody on the same page. So that's really where I think the human side of a transformation like that can tie in really nicely. It's like this let's figure it out together approach.
Love it. Great answer. Brandon, let's go over to you. There was a question about the scorecard from John. How do you score and track progress for those sub-metrics that built up into leadership and talent and culture, et cetera?
Great question. Some of them are very easily quantifiable. So AI adoption, we measure based on a combination of what we call front end sentiment, like asking folks to what degree they're using AI in their core work, but also on the back end too, looking at weekly active users of the core AI tools that we have in the company. And so measurement across that scorecard we looked at is going to be a blend of hard usage metrics, productivity metrics. And this is another place where companies aren't starting from scratch. To the extent that we have concrete ways of measuring, efficiency or product quality, customer satisfaction, like we heard from Lauren, those remain the most important measures, and they're going to be our most important measures too.
Great. Let's do one for both Wade and Brandon here. This is someone asking Kate, what do you do when leadership wants to just delegate the use of AI instead of being hands-on and sharing examples of how they use the tools to encourage others?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I think if you really want to drive AI transformation, it has to start with the top. CEO has to have their hands on the technology. The executive team has hands on the technology. Kate, what you just described is what I call the delegation trap. If you're a CEO and you say, hey, I think AI transformation is important, then you delegate it to a person. Then that person delegates it to another person. Then that person delegates it to another person. Finally, there's some poor individual contributor in the company whose job it is to figure out for the whole org. That ain't going to work. It's just not going to be very successful. So I really do think you got to find a way to have everyone, putting their hands on keyboards and building with this stuff. That doesn't mean your CEO or your executive team or the leaders in the company are going to be, cutting edge experts of this, but curiosity and practical usage matters a lot. And then at a certain point, if those folks are unwilling, I would hate to tell people to sort of give up on their employer, but I do think you got to at a certain point say hey, what is the most the best thing for you and your career and your own sort of development? I think it's probably useful to go find an employer that is going to sponsor this type of stuff. You might need to sort of reflect and consider, what is best for you in your future if you're not going to get that kind of support and buy-in. I do think this is going to be the defining technology of our generation. And, personally for me, I'd want to be in a company that is excited about it.
Yeah, maybe I'm going to promote this again on stage to answer that question. We've also got an agent building workshop for EA teams, which is actually a great way to get to leaders as well, which is, help the executive go find and get interested in their first use case. Their EA is a great group to go build it for them. Wade, let's do one more with you. The top voted question here is, can you just tell us a little of the difference between N8N and Zapier?
Sure. I think N8N and Zapier, the Venn diagram of jobs to be done you can accomplish with both platforms is pretty similar. But I do think for different types of people, you're going to find your sensibilities to prefer one or the other. I think where Zapier's calling card has always been that it's cloud hosted, it's very easy to get started. It's the type of tool you can hand to a business user, no matter your background. You could be a accountant, someone, a recruiter in real estate and marketing and sales, you name it. And you're probably going to find that your on-ramp is pretty simple. And so I think it has, Zapier has broader based adoption in part because of that. I think where N8N tends to thrive is that, for those bespoke use cases and for more, for people who like more flexibility and control, you can do more with it. N8N is self-hosted, so you take on the ownership of that. You probably need some DevOps skills. You probably need other tools at your disposal. But if you're willing to invest the time and effort, it is a pretty powerful platform that can do a lot. But I think for most folks, you're going to generally find Zapier is probably pretty easy to get started, and it hooks into a wider array of tools and is faster and easier for you.
Perfect. Let's do one last one since we're at the top of the hour from Naomi here. Anyone can jump in. Where do you draw the line with automation? How do you know when you've hit that line and you're going to stick with a non-automated solution or, a human?
I think I got this one. I'll finish with something that Wade shared earlier. Again, credit to Brian Helmig, our CTO and co-founder here at Zapier. It really speaks to the power of a single principle, right? With AI, you can automate a bunch of the work or delegate a bunch of the work, but you cannot delegate the accountability. I think a team that holds that single concept in their head is halfway there to making some really good, applying really good judgment to exactly that question, Naomi. It's an excellent way to finish up here. Ryan, thank you to you and your team for getting us ready for today. And thank you to everyone who joined from around the world for Zapier's first public all hands on the topic of AI transformation in 2026. Wade, this was a good one to do together.
Thanks, team.
Cool. Thank you, Emily and Lauren, as well. See you.
Thanks, everybody.